Previously in part 1, I am the invisible shadow of my perfect sister, guarded by a man who looks at me with nothing but cold disdain. But my world is fracturing, a blood-soaked nightmare of my past life, of betrayal, ruin, and a nameless savior is becoming too real to ignore. As the palace secrets unravel, I realize my silent guard, Ethan, is hiding a truth that spans 2 lifetimes. Was he my enemy then, or the only one who loved a fool like me? Part 2. Of all the men I've known, if I had to rank them, Lucas Yan would be first. Ethan Song would barely make the list. Clear as a breeze, bright as the moon, skilled in martial arts, responsible, dependable, and gentle with me, always considerate. No matter how you looked at it, he was the best choice for marriage. That was what my sister told me. I still remember that day. Lucas said he'd talk to me after my sister got married. But then things happened, and it was delayed. Even now, I never found out what he meant to say. But thinking back, I probably know. When I carried the embroidered sash and climbed the ladder to the top of the wall, I saw a ladder propped up in the opposite courtyard. Lucas had left it there for me, yet in all these years I'd never used it even once. After a moment, I climbed back down. I took the long way around and went in through the front gate of the general's residence. The sash was a birthday gift for Lucas, a way to make up for the last 6 years. I thought it over for a long time. In the end, I decided I'd embroider it properly, carefully, stitch by stitch. In the study, I handed him the sash embroidered with locust blossoms. Lucas loved it. Joy nearly spilled from his eyes as his long fingers gripped it tightly. I smiled. Lowering my gaze, I spotted an invitation card on the table, and a rush of memories surged up. If you really thought about it, even my handwriting was something Lucas had taught me, stroke by stroke. I'd been slow since I was little. I learned everything more slowly than everyone else. When I first started writing, Lucas patiently taught me again and again for a full 2 years. Even my sister used to say, "If Sophie can't learn it, that's fine." I just picked up my brush when Lucas said softly, "Sophie, I regret not being by your side for 6 years." Lucas, he let out a low laugh. But if I'd chosen to stay back then, I would have regretted that too. I set the brush down, turned, and called him. "Lucas, you'll become a great general." As if he'd been holding back for a long time, he pulled me into a loose embrace. His voice by my ear was a little hoarse. "Sophie, will you marry me?" My sister's words from that day burst into my mind. When little ones truly like someone, they'll probably hide it deep in their hearts and keep it safe. I lifted my arms around his back and whispered, "I will." By the time I noticed the 4 carved characters on the branch were gone, several days had already passed. I sat up in the tree, staring blankly at the window. All at once, I remembered the Lantern Festival that day. Peaceful, smooth days. Didn't I help you get them? I lowered my head, the corner of my lips lifting faintly. Then I shifted and slid down. My scream hadn't even finished when someone caught me. It was Ethan Song. It had been a long time. He looked thinner. No white robe with blue trim this time, only black brocade. He set me down slowly and smiled. "Haven't seen you in days, little miss. You've gotten rounder." Ethan Song. I wasn't angry. I didn't argue. I just looked up at him. "I have something to give back to you." When I pulled out the jade carved with the character Song, he froze. "5 years ago, you dropped it at my doorway," I said softly, my head lowered. After a moment, he seemed to come back to himself. Then he broke into a wide grin. "Oh, so you're the little sister who loved to cry." My thoughts snapped back to that snowy morning. The person I'd stared at forever and still couldn't recognize had been me. I gave a self-mocking curl of my lips and looked up at him. "Ethan Song, you're a terrible painter." My throat tightened. I grabbed his distinct, bony fingers and pressed the jade into his palm. "I'm going to marry Lucas Yan." Before he could say anything, I turned and walked away. On the light breeze, I heard a faint voice behind me, so soft it was almost nothing. "So, even a wish you never finished writing can still come true." The news came out of nowhere. By the time I heard, Lucas Yan had already left for the frontier. He'd left behind only one letter, addressed to Ethan Song. 3 days later was supposed to be our wedding day. I went to the imperial palace to see my sister. She said the marriage decree had been the emperor's idea. He'd thought Lucas was away all year and rarely had the chance to take a wife, so with one grand gesture, he granted the match. Later, before Lucas left, he went to see the emperor. My sister said Crown Prince Julian was there too. The Crown Prince watched the whole exchange, and even after returning, still admired Lucas in secret. Lucas had knelt and begged the emperor to withdraw the order. He said he lived by the sword, with death always close. He could fall for the country any day. He didn't want to hold any girl back. I turned my face away and wiped at my damp eyes, lowering my head in silence. My sister sighed. All of you, honestly? A gust of wind blew the window open. A masked man in black leaned against the frame, smiling with his eyes. So you're not getting married today, miss? At the time, I was sprawled over the table, my heart a tangled mess. I glanced at him. I'm waiting for my fiancé to come back. He's always away, never around to keep you company. How about what? The smile in his eyes deepened. He held a hand out to me. How about you elope with me? I put my hands behind my back and walked toward him. I stared at him for a long time without moving. My tears fell first. He froze, then immediately jumped down, flustered. I'm joking. He lifted his hand as if to wipe my tears. I stepped back and avoided him. I already have a fiancé. His fingers stiffened midair. As if at a loss, he curled them into a loose fist and hid his hand behind his back. With a dazed smile, he said, Right, you already have a fiancé. I overstepped. Before I could say anything, he suddenly turned and leapt out the window, thoughtful enough to close it behind him. I was so angry, I shouted out, Ethan Song, you bully me every day like you've got the nerve. So why are you actually this cowardly? No answer. I worked myself up for a long time, then shouted until my voice went rough. Do you really hate me that much? No, you're the hateful one. Ethan Song, you're hateful. Still nothing. I walked over and shoved the window open. Good, no one. I slammed it shut in frustration. The moment I turned around, I saw him standing behind me. I stumbled back in shock. Ethan Song, you. He tore the cloth from his face. His head was lowered, looking a little lonely. But his words didn't sound lonely at all. Yeah, I still want to snatch you away, little miss. Huh? I was stunned. Then I heard him add, I'll admit it. I came today to steal the bride. Under my disbelieving stare, he pointed out the window. The Pingwang sect disciples are all outside. Me. Pingwang sect, I handed the letter to Ethan Song. Lucas left this for you. So, under the watchful eyes of his junior brothers and sisters, Ethan opened it. There were only 7 large characters inside. Ethan Song, you bastard. In my memory, that was probably the first time Lucas had ever spoken like that. Ethan, fuming, crumpled the paper into a ball and pegged it at a junior disciple who was fighting not to laugh. After he chased them all away, he said awkwardly, I'll make you a bowl of noodles. Me. When Ethan brought the noodles over, I was wandering around his room. At a glance, I spotted a painting on the table. It was me, yet it didn't look like me. A familiar fragrance drifted over. I tasted the noodles, confused. Of course, my sister's cooking still hadn't improved. As I slurped the noodles, he suddenly sat bolt upright. Then he placed the jade carved with song in front of me. Nervously, he said, I want to marry you. I froze. So this jade was the betrothal gift? No. Who said I was marrying him? Later, I asked Ethan Song what he'd said after he was shot by an arrow. At first, he refused to tell me, only saying, Come on. It's in the past. If I hadn't thrown a fit about going home, he never would have said it. He'd said, Little miss, your sister is fine. I couldn't figure out what he meant until our wedding night, when he rubbed my cheeks and explained, If something had happened to your sister, you would have been heartbroken to death. That night, I was captivated by his red wedding robe and handsome face, and I finally asked the question I'd been hiding for a long time. Ethan Song, do you like my sister? His fingers, which were undoing my wedding clothes, paused. Then he looked at me with sudden seriousness. Then do you like? I like you, I cut him off. But you're so annoying, you always bully me, and you're always calling me slow and stupid. He pulled me into his arms, laughing so hard his chest shook. Exactly, little miss is slow and stupid. Just looking at you makes me want to bully you hard. When we were bare before each other, Ethan braced himself over me. He pinched my waist, troubled. Why are you so soft? What if I crush you? I was mortified and furious. I roared, Ethan Song, are you doing it or not? He answered with one word, full force. Yes. Later, Ethan Song, be gentler. Ethan Song, a little gentler. Ethan's song, I said be gentler. He paused slightly. By my ear, he laughed softly, his voice hoarse. Little miss, I can't be gentle. Exhausted and half asleep, I suddenly remembered he still hadn't answered my earlier question. Before I drifted off, I faintly heard him nuzzle my neck and murmur, low and soft, with this life I stole, how could I bear not to love you? Extra. Lucas Yan's POV. Between the general's residence and the chancellor's residence stood a high wall. At the base of the wall, there was a dog hole. The first time I saw Sophie, it was there. She was stuck in the hole, asleep, still clutching a piece of peach blossom cake. That year, I was 7. I poked her soft little cheek, then carefully pulled her out and carried her home. She slept on my bed for more than an hour before she finally woke up. She didn't cry or make a fuss. She just opened her big black and white eyes, pointed at her head, and told me to help her comb her hair. I stared at that tangled mess and ran into Mother's room to steal a wooden comb. I combed her fine, soft hair as gently as I could, afraid of tugging and hurting her. I worked forever and still only managed to tie it crooked. I brought her a pile of pastries from the kitchen and set them in front of her, then went out into the courtyard to practice my sword. But she held an osmanthus cake in one hand and a twig she'd picked up off the ground in the other, running circles around me, giggling. When night fell, the chancellor's residence next door was lit up bright, like something major had happened. Father kicked my door open. Behind him came another girl. She was still young, but it was already obvious she'd grow into a breathtaking beauty. The girl behind her, gnawing on a chicken leg, spotted her and ran over, calling sister. As she was led away, I saw her lift her chicken leg, eyes crescent-shaped with a smile, and call out, "Brother." "Hey." I'd barely started to speak when I got smacked hard on the head. Father twisted my ear. "Who taught you that, huh? Why did you steal someone else's little girl and bring her home?" I howled. I didn't steal her. I found her. That night, Father beat me. As he hit me, he shouted, "If you ever steal a little girl again, I'll break your legs." Only later did I learn her name was Sophie Sue, and her sister was Claire Sue, Chancellor Sue's 2 daughters next door. The next time I saw her, the 2 sisters were being chased by a small dog, screaming their heads off. Of course, the one screaming was Sophie. I grabbed a stick and drove the dog away, then told them, "From now on, I'll protect you." Claire spoiled Sophie. Even when Sophie couldn't learn to write, Claire would say, "It's fine. It's fine. If Sophie can't write, it doesn't matter. I'll support Sophie in the future." I could teach Sophie, so every day I took the longer route just to teach her how to write. Sophie was actually very good. Teach her a few more times and she'd get it. The first thing she learned to write was my name. Claire didn't like playing with us. She always said we were little kids, fine by me. I only wanted to be with Sophie. I flew kites with her, took her to see shadow plays, and bought her candied hawthorns. She liked following behind me too. She often crawled through the dog hole to find me. Every time she popped out, her hair was a disaster. Later, one time I caught a cricket and brought it to Sophie. We played for a long time until my father climbed over the wall, grabbed me, and dragged me back. Before leaving, he even pulled out a skewer of candied hawthorns and set it in front of Sophie. "I'll trade candied hawthorns for this brat." When I got home, I got beaten again. All you do is cling to that little girl's courtyard every day. That year I was 10. Father beat me for a long time, and I finally understood something. Right? Climbing over the wall would be much faster. I trained even harder, hoping that one day I could just vault straight over. The dog hole was blocked up by Claire. She said, "Sophie is a girl, crawling through a dog hole every day. What kind of behavior is that?" Sophie even sulked at Claire over it. But she only sulked for half an hour before Claire coaxed her back. My first successful wall climb came after a year of hard training. When I vaulted over, Sophie was standing on the swing, swaying slowly. When she saw me leap in, her eyes lit up. She immediately tried to run to me, but she was standing on the swing, so her foot slipped, and she fell straight to the ground. Her mouth was full of blood. I panicked. I threw her on my back and ran home, yelling as I ran, "Dad! Help! Help! Dad!" The moment Father saw Sophie Sue hanging there with tears on her face and blood on her mouth, he went pale. You hit someone else's little girl?" The doctor said she hadn't injured anything inside. She'd knocked out a front tooth. I looked at her, eyes red and swollen from crying, and guilt tore me apart. Chancellor Sue didn't come after me, but Claire ran over and told me I wasn't allowed to see Sophie anymore. Of course, I didn't listen. I kept climbing the wall. I kept going to see Sophie. Claire couldn't do anything about it. I even set up a ladder for Sophie. I just never expected that she wouldn't use it even once. When I was 12, Father suddenly called me to the study. He asked what I wanted to do in the future. I said I wanted to become a great general like him. He was delighted. He patted my head. Good, good, Lucas. Remember this. A man must be responsible and dependable. He must accomplish something. Only then does he have the face to ask to marry the girl he loves. My face burned red, but I didn't deny it. So after I brought Sophie the last skewer of candied hawthorns, I followed Father to the battlefield. When I came back, everything had changed. I never thought 6 years was long, until I saw Sophie bickering happily with another boy. 6 years was long enough for Sophie to grow close to someone else, even to fall for him. That person was Ethan Song, Sophie's personal guard. Sophie's moods rose and fell with him. Her gaze followed him. He made her angry more often than not, yet the next time, she'd still quarrel with him like it meant something. After Claire was granted a marriage decree, the sisters were often attacked. Ethan always protected Sophie well. He might have angered her constantly, but from a man's perspective, it was obvious he liked her. He noticed everything about Sophie. When the Chancellor's residence was framed for treason, I investigated for days without sleep. In the end, it was Ethan who delivered the crucial letter to me. I didn't know what had happened between him and Sophie. But after he handed me the letter, he went to Tutor Lee's household for no apparent reason and beat Mr. Lee half to death. Then he disappeared. That night, I had a nightmare. In it, Sophie was thrown into the prison too. I only wanted to find evidence so Sophie could walk out with her head held high, but Ethan wanted to break her out. That day, the rain came down in sheets. The one who stopped Ethan was me. Sophie was carried out in Ethan's arms. I stepped forward to block him, and Ethan drove his sword into my shoulder blade. At the same time, he smashed a jade bracelet on the ground, eyes vicious. I should have killed you. It wasn't until Ethan tortured Mr. Lee to death that I learned what had happened. But by then, Sophie had already disappeared. I woke in shock, drenched in sweat. Outside, it was still dark. Thank goodness everything was different from the dream. Sophie was still safe and sound, but when she saw that only Claire's guard stood by the carriage, the loneliness in her eyes was impossible to hide. Ethan had vanished, yet he still lived in Sophie's heart. That sudden marriage decree, I'd once considered asking the Emperor to grant one myself. But what I'd meant to tell Sophie back then, the words I never got to say, later, I no longer wanted to say. When I asked Sophie if she would marry me, and she said yes, I was happy, truly happy. The girl I'd thought of for so many years, I wanted her to be happy, too. The day I begged the Emperor to withdraw the order, it rained heavily as well. I knelt for a long time. In the end, I traded 25 years of guarding the frontier for his agreement. Sophie still wore that jade bracelet on her wrist. For the first time, I felt I might have given it to her too late. It was only the night before I left that I told Sophie the engagement was cancelled. I didn't tell her I was leaving. The next morning, before departure, I had someone deliver a letter to Sophie. That letter was for Ethan Song. I'd always known he never truly left Sophie. I also knew he was preparing to steal the bride. But now, fine. They've probably gotten married. I took a sip of warm wine and lay back on the ground, staring at the flickering stars. I lifted the sachet in my hand to my nose and inhaled. It smelled like Sophie. Extra. Master said that when he found me and brought me back to the Pingwang sect, I was about 4. Back then, he couldn't tell I'd grow into such a troublemaking kid. If I hadn't been talented, I would have been tossed off the mountain long ago. After 13 years as the senior disciple, stirring up chaos with my junior brothers and sisters until the entire Pingwang sect was in an uproar, Master finally kicked me down the mountain. He told me to secretly protect a young noble lady. At first I refused. I was a man of the martial world, used to freedom and idleness. Why would I protect some delicate willow-slender miss? Then I saw Claire Sue. Her beauty was so extraordinary, I changed my mind on the spot. A face like that was rare. You certainly didn't see it in the Pingwang sect. So I agreed. 3 junior sisters came with me. But when I arrived with my bundle, I learned the one I was supposed to protect wasn't the young lady named Claire Sue. It was her younger sister, Sophie Sue. The first time I saw her was that morning. Claire was dancing in the courtyard, and she was off to the side, playing with mud. She wore a pale yellow skirt, squatting in the corner, a tiny little lump. I thought about it for a long time and still couldn't figure out how she was put together. Round face, round eyes, fair skin, like a little bun. The kind you could eat in one bite. Later, when Claire stopped dancing, she stood and ran after her. Only then did I see clearly. She wasn't playing with mud, she was burying something. So I dug it up. Nothing valuable. Just a dead little bird. So I quietly buried it again. And that was how my schedule of secretly protecting the little bun began. Most of the time, the little bun stayed in the courtyard. She'd swing by herself or nibble at pastries servants brought in from shops all over the city. Tiny bites, slow as could be. It made me anxious. Such a small pastry, why couldn't she just eat it in one bite? Later, one night while she slept, I snuck into her room and stole a piece of the pastry she'd eaten that day. I took tiny bites too. It turned out it didn't taste any better. As I was about to leave, I caught the little bun rolling off the bed. I flashed over and caught her at once. I'd spent 13 years in the Pingwang sect, training and sparring every day. Every kind of physical contact I knew was hard and solid. But now I was holding something soft and squishy. I didn't even dare breathe. My heart nearly jumped out of my chest. The faint fragrance rising from her made my head spin. I could feel the tendons in my arms twitch. I carefully set her back on the bed, held my breath, and pulled the blanket up over her. I wanted nothing more than to take one step out, leap to the roof, and finally breathe properly. For a long time after that, every time I saw the little bun, I'd remember that night, dizzy and excited. The feeling ran deeper than any memory of going astray in training. And for the first time, a thought sprouted in me. What if I just stole her? Claire and the little bun were nothing alike. Not in any way. Claire was beautiful, cool, and unusual. The little bun loved trailing after her, calling her sister. Claire always looked cold and distant. She wasn't harsh to the little bun, but she wasn't affectionate either, and she often said strange things. A woman like that was destined to be extraordinary. Later, at an imperial palace banquet, Claire was chosen by Crown Prince Julian because of a dance. She was set to become the crown princess. The little bun started making pastries herself. Every day she stayed in the kitchen, flour all over her face. Even from far away, you could smell that sweet, cloying scent around her. Unlike Claire, who liked to dance, write, and play the zither, the little bun's greatest hobby was probably eating. Every time she came up with a new pastry, the first thing she did was bring it to Claire, then wait for praise. Claire played along. Even if she only touched it with her lips, she could still act like it was delicious. Later, I secretly tried them a few times. They were sweet enough to choke you. On ordinary days, the little bun liked climbing a ladder into a tree. It was a thick, sturdy locust tree, and she liked staying up there. It was probably the most dangerous thing she ever did. Once, she fell asleep in the tree. I flew up beside her and touched her face. Soft, like a fresh, warm bun straight out of the steamer. Her name was Sophie Sue. If you ask me, she might as well have been named Softy. I was afraid she'd roll over and fall, so I stayed up in the tree with her all afternoon. The next day, a heavy rain fell. The little bun stayed with Claire all day. Claire practiced her writing and played her zither, while the little bun sat to the side, watching and listening. Compared to the little bun, Claire's daily life was orderly to the point of predictability. Maybe, aside from her face, nothing about her was more attractive than the little bun. No, if you compared fairly, the little bun's face wasn't worse than Claire's. Her face was small but full and soft to the touch. Claire's face was like gorgeous skin stretched over bone. I remember it was an evening after the rain. The little bun suddenly made a huge batch of pastries, looking delighted. Before I could figure out what was going on, a young man vaulted over the wall into her courtyard. I was about to strike, but the little bun rushed forward and threw her arms around him. His name was Lucas Jan. He was the little bun's childhood sweetheart. How do you put that feeling into words? Like something you'd guarded for years, only for someone to snatch it away one day. He was the only son of the general next door, and he'd just returned from the battlefield. After he came back, he often climbed over the wall to see the little bun. Every time he brought all kinds of snacks. He always managed to coax a smile out of her. All I felt was a sour tightness in my chest. I needed a drink to wash it down. Later, he got busy. He had all sorts of things to handle, and he spent less time with her. The little bun, silly little fool, didn't seem to notice at all. Every day she waited in the courtyard, eyes fixed on the gate. On the night of the Lantern Festival, he told her he finally had time and could take her out. But halfway through, something urgent came up. He had to leave for a bit and entrusted her to several of his subordinates. In the bustling crowd, the little bun carried a lantern and looked around, and then someone bumped into her. It was a richly dressed young man with a flirtatious face. "I'm Tristan Lee. May I ask your name, miss? I'm truly sorry, I didn't see where I was going." The rake folded his fan, smiling as he dipped his head. The little bun picked up her lantern, waved a hand, and said, "It's fine," then turned to leave without even looking at him. He stopped her and insisted on knowing her name. Seeing that, the subordinate stepped in front of her. Soon they were arguing. In the chaos, the flirtatious man grabbed the little bun. By the time I reacted, I'd already kicked him down and swept the little bun into my arms, leaping aside. The touch in my hands was still soft. I gave it a squeeze. Just as I was about to speak, the little bun slapped me across the face. She shoved me away and shouted, "Pervert!" Then she ran straight into the arms of the man who'd rushed back, sobbing in grievance. Lucas. Tristan Lee was Tudor Lee's son and the imperial noble consort's younger brother. A born rake, he spent his days lingering at Springbreeze House. The women in his residence were too many to count. Even so, he still set his sights on the little bun. On the little bun's birthday, Lucas gave her a jade bracelet. She loved it. After that, every time I saw the bracelet on her wrist, it made me sick. Later, she embroidered a sachet and gave it to Lucas. I was furious, but I still had to protect her. Not long after Claire Sue married Crown Prince Julian, the Sue family was accused of treason. Everyone was thrown into the prison. Before anyone could even react, Chancellor Sue was murdered. It was a frame-up planned long ago. I once heard my master say that Chancellor Sue had devoted his life to public service. He cared for the people. He held great power, yet he remained upright. It was obvious the Chancellor's residence would never be able to wash this treason charge clean. My master told me to go back. Court affairs were not for people of the martial world to meddle in. I understood all of that, but I wanted to save the little bun. Alone in a cell, she had to be terrified. My master stopped me. "The mission is over. Return to Pingwang sect." Knowing I wouldn't agree, he brought many Pingwang sect disciples down the mountain to seize me. "Don't think I don't know what you're planning. Even if you rescue her, so what? You'll still end up on the run." I fell to my knees and begged. Being on the run didn't matter. As long as she was safe, I would protect her. If she was sent into the military camp, I would truly go mad. After the incident, Lucas kept searching for evidence. Sometimes I couldn't understand it. Why was the court so full of deceit? With such a flawless frame-up, even someone like me could tell there was no way to clear it. He was the son of a general. He'd been around the powerful since childhood. What made him think he could find proof and bring her out unharmed? When I went to him, he was still gathering evidence. He looked exhausted, but he wasn't surprised to see me. He'd probably guessed I was the hidden guard Chancellor Sue had arranged to protect the little bun. I yanked the files from his hands. "Get her out. I'll clean up the rest." He understood. He lifted his eyes to me. "I can't let her bear the crime of treason." He refused me, and I regretted going to him at all. There were plenty of experts in the martial world who would kill for money. After years on the road, I happened to know all the right people. That night, the rain was torrential. Everything went smoothly until the very end. Lucas stopped me. He must have been waiting for me all along. "I told you, I'm going to have her walk out of here in the open. And I told you, I'm taking her away." So we fought. But because he was the one the little bun liked, I held back. He was a decent man too. He only wanted to stop a prison break, so he held back as well. By the time I wounded him and forced my way into the prison, it was too late. 7. The man who slammed into me as he ran out, I knew him. Tristan Lee. From a distance I saw the little bun. Her clothes were torn to shreds. Her dark hair hung loose, scattered and tangled. Blood stained the corner of her mouth. She lay on the ground, barely alive. I rushed to her and dropped to my knees. When I saw her battered body and the blood between her legs, tears fell without warning. My head swam. I had protected her for so long. My little bun, I didn't know what to do. She was covered in wounds. Her pale, soft body was bruised purple, marked with fingerprints. My temples throbbed. In the end, I took off my outer robe. Carefully, I wrapped her up and lifted her into my arms. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw the jade bracelet clenched tight in her hand. The arm holding her trembled uncontrollably. Lucas still hadn't left. He even tried to stop me. This time, I didn't want to hold back. I drove my sword into his shoulder blade and yanked it out. He collapsed. Blood quickly melted into the rain. I pried the jade bracelet from her hand and threw it in front of him. I should have killed you. I carried the little bun to countless clinics and sought doctor after doctor, but they all said she was already dead. I threw them out. Lies. All lies. How could she be dead? How could she? After I wiped her clean with a towel until she was spotless, I went out and bought a green dress to put on her. I remembered that the day Lucas returned, she'd been wearing a green dress. It must have been her favorite color. She lay quietly on the bed. I sat beside her and touched her small face. She'd grown so thin. I should have stolen you away sooner. Holding her slightly stiff fingers, pain tore through my chest, and I spat out a mouthful of blood. I wiped it away carelessly. Then I kissed her forehead gently and murmured into her ear, "Little bun, my name is Ethan Song." I took Tristan Lee. I severed the tendons in his hands and feet. He cried and begged me for mercy. My whole body ached so badly I could barely breathe. Back then, the little bun must have cried and begged him to stop too. What did he do? With my sword tip, I slit open his clothes. I carved into his body again and again. His wailing tore through the air until his flesh was mangled and bloody. At last I drove the sword into his chest, inch by inch, and watched him die slowly. But it still wasn't enough. What use was his death? Who could give the little bun back to me? I only wanted her to be the way she was before. Her body grew stiffer by the day, and my suffering grew with it. In the end, I had no choice. I set the small house on fire and walked in with her in my arms. When Lucas rushed over, the roof was already burning through. It collapsed. When I woke, I was in Pingwong's sect. My throat hurt so much I could barely speak. My junior brother hurried over when he saw I was awake. "Senior brother, you're awake. You've been unconscious for 3 days." A teacup rolled to the floor. I grabbed his robe and asked hoarsely, "This is Pingwong's sect?" "Senior brother, did you get drenched in the rain and lose your mind? If this isn't Pingwong's sect, what is it? Drenched in rain? Sick?" I looked down at my body. It really had become smaller. I let out a soft laugh. Maybe this time I could walk up to her. I couldn't wait for my master to assign me a mission. I went to see her early. By bad luck, the first time I saw her, she was standing in a crowd, bawling her eyes out. It felt like a lifetime had passed, and yet like it was only yesterday. I walked over, crouched beside her, and looked at her chubby little cheeks. I wanted to hold her and cry with her. In the end, I forced my emotions down and only said, "You cry so ugly, little sister." It worked. She stopped immediately and stared at me, stunned. After I escorted her home, I deliberately took off my jade pendant and left it at the door. I knew she would soon realize she'd forgotten to ask my name. Later, when my master told me to protect her, I made a request. I wanted her to know me. I wanted her to know the one protecting her was named Ethan Song. And I wanted her to know that in this life, I came for her. Claire Sue was strange. She didn't act the way she had in the last life. In this life, she spoiled the little bun. It made me suspect she'd been reborn too. But none of that mattered, as long as she didn't hurt the little bun. I stayed with the little bun every day. I wanted to tuck her into my arms and shield her from everything. The day Lucas came back and climbed over the wall, I almost charged at him on instinct and started fighting. I even wanted to kill him. But when he stood beside the little bun, all my strength seemed to drain away. I only wanted to run. On the night of the Lantern Festival, my attention was on the little bun the whole time. So when trouble broke out, I quickly moved her to safety. Avoid Tristan Lee. Avoid him. Then the little bun wouldn't be harmed by him. My arm around her trembled. I was terrified, too. On her birthday, I swapped out the longevity noodles Claire made. I cooked a bowl myself, hoping she could live safe and sound in this life. But when I saw the jade bracelet on her wrist, it still stabbed at my eyes. The assassination attempt afterward made me realize that what Claire and I did had changed how events unfolded, the timing, the order. So some things might happen earlier. When the arrow flew toward Claire, I didn't think. I stepped in to block it. If anything happened to her, the little bun would cry herself sick. That couldn't happen. Other than me, no one was allowed to make the little bun cry. Before I lost consciousness, I saw Lucas lift her onto a horse. All I thought was, as long as she's safe. While I was unconscious, I dreamed again of the prison from the last life. Maybe it would haunt me forever. When I woke, there was a sachet by my pillow. Holding it, I went to look for her. I didn't expect to see her with Lucas. The wound ached faintly. A martial artist's hearing is always sharper. After Lucas left, I walked up to her. I didn't want to say anything else. I only wanted to ask if the sachet was from her. What did she say then? Oh, right, she said. Ah, that? I made several. Everyone has one. You have one too. On the day Claire married, everyone in the Chancellor's residence was arrested. I'd spoken with Claire beforehand, so I went straight to Prince Adrian, stole the letters from him, and handed them to Lucas. I was never sure whether the little bun still liked him. But what he failed to do in the last life, I would let him do in this one. I would let him take the evidence and bring the little bun out in the open. Back then, I didn't know how to face her. Images from the last life kept flashing in my mind. I even wondered if I'd lost my mind, so I returned to the shadows and watched over her. The little bun in this life was alive and well. So why did the little bun in the last life have to suffer like that? I trapped myself. Claire was the one who pulled me out. She said, Ethan Song, Sophie will always be the same Sophie. Later, the Emperor granted their marriage. I thought about it for a long time. Maybe fate can't be forced. Even if I showed up first, what could I really change? When the little bun fell from the tree, I knew she did it on purpose. When she returned that jade to me, I finally understood what despair felt like. Maybe that was it then. In the end, I was selfish for once. I still wanted to be with her. So I took Pingwang's sect disciples with me and prepared to snatch the bride. But that night, when I pushed open the window and saw her, I didn't dare make a big move. Carefully, I asked if she was willing to run away with me. I didn't expect her to cry. I panicked right then and there. I thought, why snatch any bride? I should just hurry back to Pingwang's sect and inherit my master's legacy. I jumped out the window. I just closed it for her when I heard her voice. My life had gone smoothly. Across 2 lifetimes, I'd faced only one trial, her. I guessed uncertainly. Did she maybe like me? Just a little? Just a little was enough. After that, we got married. On our wedding night, that silly girl even asked if I liked her sister. I wanted to bite her hard. Touching her pale, soft body, I truly felt she was a little bun, one you could swallow in a single bite. Before she drifted off, I whispered in her ear, with this life I stole, how could I not love you? Extra. Older sister's POV. When I first woke up in this world, I was terrified. But a little fool stayed by my side the whole time, chattering endlessly about everything. Only then did I learn my name was Claire Sue, and the little fool was Sophie Sue. We were daughters of the Chancellor. As long as I could remember, I'd lived in a family that never stopped fighting. What was family love? I didn't know. So when Sophie Sue and her family treated me with such care, I was at a loss. I didn't know how to respond. I even thought their kindness was meant for this body, not the soul inside it. I wasn't Claire Sue. I had lived 25 years, struggling through a society that devoured people. So the moment I saw my face, I'd already planned my future. Music, chess, calligraphy, painting, singing, dancing. I could do all of it. I'd been forced to learn for over a decade. That dance at the palace banquet was something I practiced for a long time. My target was Crown Prince Julian. The Crown Prince was a lecher. Everyone in the realm knew it. At first, I only wanted to become the Crown Princess. I wanted to stand above others and survive in this world. Later, I fell in love with the Crown Prince. He was only lecherous. He wasn't cruel. He was even handsome, gentle with women, and endlessly patient. So I was moved. I began to lose myself. I focused only on pleasing him, hoping his gaze would stay on me forever. But there were so many beauties. How could he like only me, let alone forever? This was a mistake I would never forgive myself for. Falling in love with the crown prince. When the people of the chancellor's residence were imprisoned for treason, someone like me couldn't save anyone. Later, I heard from palace servants that my foolish little sister had been violated to death in the prison, and in the end, even her body was stolen away. When I woke again, I had only one purpose left: to protect the people who cared about me. Long ago, I knew Chancellor Su had arranged guards for Sophie Su and me, protecting us in secret, but I didn't understand why, in this life, they appeared before us, and that Ethan Song, he seemed to have been reborn too. Maybe he suspected me. Maybe he didn't. It didn't matter. He would never guess that the soul inside this body came from another, far more advanced civilization. Gradually, I understood. I understood why, in this life, they no longer protected us from the shadows. Ethan Song came entirely for Sophie Su. By coincidence, Lucas Yan next door had liked Sophie Su since childhood. I don't know what happened between the three of them in the last life. I only remember that Sophie Su liked Lucas Yan, and Ethan Song never showed his face from beginning to end. Because of certain things Ethan Song and I did earlier, a butterfly effect took place. The treason frame-up came early, on the very day I married. But luckily, there was still time to save everyone. Lucas Yan was a loyal man and a hardened soldier. He could not endure even the slightest humiliation. At the same time, he could not allow those important to him to be humiliated either. So he was easily pushed into an impossible dilemma. In his heart, there was not only Sophie Su, but also his home and his country. Ethan Song was different. He was merely a man of the martial world, unbound and unattached. At most, he had a few fellow disciples and a master. But even those couldn't enter his heart. In his heart, there was only Sophie Su. After we left the prison, I smoothly married the crown prince, and everything returned to its proper place. But Ethan Song left me puzzled. He seemed trapped in a deadlock of his own making. He not only believed Sophie Su liked Lucas Yan, he also treated the Sophie Su of the last life and the Sophie Su of this life as two different people. I respected Sophie Su's choice. As long as she wished it, I would use every resource I had to help her achieve it. Only these three kids, one after another, none of them would say they liked someone, and none of them would say they didn't. They were impossibly stubborn. In the end, the emperor granted a marriage between Sophie Su and Lucas Yan. It proved that someone had to make a decision before any of them would act. I didn't expect Lucas Yan to beg the emperor to cancel the engagement. To be honest, if he were an ordinary man, he would truly be a good partner. He traded 25 years of guarding the frontier to cancel the engagement just to make Sophie Su happy. Later, I told Sophie Su about it. His feelings and what he gave up deserved to be known. The night Ethan Song led his men to crash the wedding, I knew about it from the start. If I hadn't learned in advance, how else could he have gotten into the chancellor's residence so easily? What he did was exactly what I expected, exactly the sort of thing he'd do. I'd always understood this. Sophie Su believed Ethan Song liked me. She had no idea he was actually on guard against me. His words were honey-sweet. His actions were merciless. Whenever danger came, Ethan Song was always the first to shield Sophie Su. He never spared a thought for me. The worst thing about him was his mouth. He was always teasing Sophie Su, always trying to get under her skin. Maybe he didn't even realize it. All along, Sophie Su had liked Ethan Song, and yet he still spent his days jealous over nothing. The three of us were childish. Ridiculously so. I've lived 3 lifetimes. I saw through everything there was to see long ago. Now I only want to live this life in peace. There were still plenty of beauties around Crown Prince Julian. I handled their arrangements properly, who he visited each day and who he stayed with each night. I knew it all. I didn't care. As long as real power remained in my hands, that was enough. Not just Ethan Song. Sometimes even I wonder, was this life the dream, or was the last one? If this life is a dream, then I only hope it lasts longer and longer.